Now let's look at some behaviors we don't necessarily think of when we think of cats, but which each have their own importance. I made a video on eating, one on drinking, and here we'll go through the other, less obvious behaviors. A 1984 review of sleep studies in different species tells us that cats sleep between 9 and 13 hours a day, depending on the study. More recent activity budget studies give us, for both feral cats and free-roaming house cats, 55% of the time, or 13 hours of sleep and rest. So a kitty who only sleeps 5 hours, or a kitty who sleeps 18 hours, is a sign that something might be wrong. We also know that cats are crepuscular, meaning they sleep around noon and midnight. It's normal for them to sleep during the day and find us disturbing when we're home at noon, and also for them to be wide awake at 4 a.m. But it's not normal for them to be lying down all the time, even when they're old. What do we know about cats' litter box habits? Well, mammals weighing over 3 kilograms empty their bladders in 21 seconds on average. So if our cat urinates in much less time or much more time than that, it's a sign to us that something might be wrong. Farmhouse cats seem to urinate twice a day and defecate 3 times a day, but house cats on a commercial diet defecate much less frequently. In a study of domestic cats, the average number of visits to the litter box was 3 times per day and 20 times per week. Cats prefer to relieve themselves in larger litter boxes than typically available commercially, and in fine, clumping clay litter substrates, which makes sense considering that prickly or coarse substrates are unpleasant to walk on. Litter digging behavior is typically less prevalent in cats that occasionally relieve themselves outside the litter box. Is this due to the substrate, to pain, to a past negative association? Each case is unique. Digging behavior in the litter box seems to be correlated with kitties that are happy with their litter box. Cats choose to relieve themselves in litter boxes that do not already contain clumps. It's not the smell of past pee or poop that bothers them, but the fact that there are already clumps of what appears to be pee or poop, even when it actually isn't in the experiments. So clean your litter box every day, or even better, twice a day, to allow your cat to exhibit their typical behaviors without stress. Urine sprayed on a vertical surface smells more because it adheres well to it, not because marking urine is different from urinating urine. Cats choose vertical surfaces when they want their scent to spread more easily. Is covering one's droppings a map? Well, given that some cats don't do it, probably not. Cats learn this behavior from their moms, but it's such a common behavior and sometimes even occurs on hard surfaces that one might wonder if they might be predisposed to do it. Here, Miley clearly intends for his scent to be disseminated because he sprays on a vertical surface. But then he falls into his habits on autopilot and tries to cover before realizing it's not relevant and or not a soft surface. At least that's how I interpret what I see. Finally, urine marking is a typical cat behavior. It's completely normal. It's part of reproductive behaviors and long-distance communication between cats. We don't like to see behaviors like marking, mating, vocalizations, etc. in our cats, but they are typical of the species. In a neutered cat, reproductive behaviors are generally absent, and urine marking is primarily a sign of stress. Therefore, we should view this typical behavior as a red flag, telling us that something's wrong in our cat's life. If it occurs outside, it's a little less worrisome, but still a sign that cats are roaming around. Vocalizations are other typical cat behaviors. Vocalization occurs in social interactions. Think of chirping, meowing, purring, growling, hissing, whining, etc. Tactile behaviors, where the cat rubs themselves against other living beings, are also communication. Body language also includes a range of typical cat behaviors. Communication is a collection of species-typical behaviors. The Halloween cat look is the most striking example, but there are tons of more subtle behaviors present in cats. Sniffing the odors and semiochemical compounds, commonly known as pheromones, of other cats is also a species-typical behavior. Dogs aren't the only ones who use their noses a lot. Investigating scents allows them to navigate the world while limiting the risk of negative interactions. Finally, what about territorial behaviors? While cats are, for the most part, capable of sharing space and resources. Just think of cats that wander our back alleys and the colonies of stray cats. That said, since cats have solitary ancestors, there remains variation among individuals in their ease of cohabitating with other cats. These images come from several years of video data in my backyard before I secured it. You'll see that there was a wide variety of cats and wildlife sharing the space. Territory is very much a question of resources. If food, water, litter boxes, sunny spots, and shelters are plentiful for everyone, there is no reason to fight over them. That would mean risking unnecessary injury. When resources are less abundant, it's more worth defending them. That said, just as we like the security of our home and our yard and our barbecue, and just as we feel most comfortable with the family members we live with or regularly encounter, cats like the security of their home and family. Is it worth risking injury to defend the territory? It all depends on the situation. If we consider a territory to be exclusive to group members, defended, containing the resources necessary for survival, and not overlapping with that of another group, we could say that the home of the cat is their territory. But then, why don't all newly adopted cat introductions turn sour? Why wasn't the cat that entered my secure yard and then my house immediately attacked by my cats? What about the yard and the back alley? What about walking on a leash? Why do my cats make alley cat buddies while out on a walk? Is the alley more a domain, less serious than a territory? I feel like we can say that cats are on a territoriality continuum. Just like us who hold on to our property fiercely, but invite people over for dinner. It comes down to a question of resources, familiarity, and a sense of security. That wraps up the typical behaviors of the cat species. In our last video in this series, we'll explore how these behaviors can help us assess whether our cat needs help or is comfortable.